All right, so you sent me a ton of articles on this ICC Champions Trophy that starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you must be trying to get a feel for if it's worth all the hype, right?
Well, I think it's definitely more than just another tournament. We're talking top 8 ODI teams.
Right.
You've got these huge rivalries, and then, of course, all the political baggage that always comes with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of picking up on from these articles. It seems like this is almost a diplomatic tightrope walk for Pakistan.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. It's
Oh.
their first major cricketing event that they've hosted in almost 30 years, and they're really pulling out all the stops to impress. I think one article I read even quoted a Pakistani official who said they want to use this tournament to rewrite the narrative about their country.
So it's not just about a successful tournament. They're aiming for like a PR win here.
Exactly.
But it seems like that could easily backfire with India refusing to even play any matches there.
It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of India's matches will be in Dubai, and if they reach the final, that might even have to be moved.
Yeah.
So logistically, it's a nightmare, but then politically, it really just highlights the tension between these two countries.
And what about the security concerns? I mean, some of these articles are a little alarming.
Yeah, that's definitely a major focus. I mean, we're talking over 20,000 troops, deployed snipers on rooftops.
Yeah.
It's not something you see at every cricket tournament.
No.
But I think it shows how determined Pakistan is to show the world that they can provide that safe and secure environment.
Yeah, I guess we'll see how that plays out.
Hmm.
But shifting back to what's actually happening on the field, let's talk about the groups. I mean, Group A seems like that's where all the fireworks are.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, India and Pakistan in the same group.
Right.
That's always a recipe for drama.
Right.
And then you add in Bangladesh and New Zealand, too.
Yeah.
I mean, that group is going to be a real dogfight.
Yeah. Yeah, some analysts are even saying that this India-Pakistan match might actually be more about the politics than the cricket at this point. Do you buy that, and what would that even look like?
It's certainly possible.
Yeah.
The pressure on both teams is going to be immense.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere in that stadium is going to be unlike anything else. I mean, anytime these two teams meet, it's not just a game.
Right.
It's a symbol of all that national pride, all that historical rivalry between them.
So even if the players themselves aren't consciously thinking about the politics, the context is unavoidable.
Exactly. And you can bet that every run scored, every wicket taken, every decision is going to be scrutinized through this very specific political lens.
Wow.
It adds this whole other layer of complexity to what's already an incredibly intense match.
Now, Group B maybe doesn't have that same level of geopolitical drama,
Right.
but it's certainly no less competitive.
Not at all. You've got Australia, who are the reigning World Cup champions, but they're looking a little vulnerable this time around, especially after losing a few key players to injury.
I was surprised to see that Pat Cummins and Josh Hazelwood are both out,
Yeah.
and now Mitchell Starc is withdrawing too. That's a big blow to their bowling.
It is, but it also creates this opportunity for some of their younger players to step up.
Yeah.
This tournament could be a real breakout moment for someone like Sean Abbott or Jahai Richardson.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about these tournaments. You just never know who's going to seize that moment and become a star.
For sure.
So with those big names out, Australia is suddenly a much more interesting team to watch.
Yeah, are they going to be able to pull it off again?
Right. Can Steve Smith lead them to another title?
Yeah, will their inexperienced bowlers be able to handle the pressure? Lots of questions to be answered.
Okay, so we've got the underdog Aussies, but who else should we be watching out for in Group B?
Well, England are always a threat, but they're coming off a loss to India in their recent series.
Okay.
And their captain, Joss Buttler, has even admitted that they've got some work to do. They've got the talent for sure.
Right.
But can they actually find their form when it matters most?
And we can't forget about South Africa.
Right.
They always seem like a team with a lot of potential.
Yeah, they've got a powerful batting lineup with guys like Quinton de Kock and Aiden Markram.
Yeah.
But they can be inconsistent. Yeah. So if they can put it all together, they could be a real dark horse in this tournament.
And speaking of dark horses, what about Afghanistan? I mean, they always have a knack for pulling off the upset.
They do. And with Rashid Khan leading their spin attack, they can be a real handful for anyone. Don't be surprised if they cause a few headaches for the favorites.
Okay, so lots of potential for surprises in both groups. But before we get too deep into the on-field stuff, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about Pakistan's efforts to kind of rewrite the narrative about their country. I mean, this high-stakes tournament is not just about national pride, it's about serious money too, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They've invested heavily in upgrading their stadiums. I think I even read they requested a pretty significant overdraft to cover some of the costs.
Wow.
So they're betting big on this tournament, both literally and figuratively.
I did read that there were some hiccups along the way, though. Apparently renovation costs for the stadiums, like, skyrocketed. What happened there?
Yeah, it seems like there were a few unforeseen challenges and delays which pushed up the expenses.
Mm.
But the Pakistani government has been very clear that they see these investments as necessary to show the world that they are a viable destination for these international sporting events.
Okay.
They're looking at this as a long-term strategy to boost their tourism and really stimulate their economy.
So even if they don't win the tournament, they're hoping to win in other ways.
Exactly. They're aiming for a win on multiple fronts. Sporting success, of course, but also the economic benefits and a boost to their international image. It's a pretty bold gamble, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
I'm starting to see why this is more than just your average cricket tournament.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're watching a geopolitical chess match playing out on the field.
It really is. Every move, every decision has these implications that go way beyond just the boundaries of the game. It really is. And speaking of strategic moves, let's talk about the players themselves. Who are some of the key figures to watch in this tournament?
Well, obviously, you've got to start with Babar Azam, right? Pakistan's captain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He is the linchpin of that batting lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, one article I read even compared his importance to the team to that of Imran Khan back in the 90s.
Wow.
Pretty high praise.
Yeah, it seems like he's handling the pressure well, though. One interview I read quoted him talking about how the Pakistani team needs to improve their awareness and professionalism. It almost sounds like he's trying to build a winning culture, not just win matches.
It's a good point. It's not just about the individual talent. It's about raising the bar for the whole team. And, his opening partner, Mohammad Rizwan, seems to be right there with him. Yeah. They've formed a really solid partnership at the top of the order.
Yeah, and I read that Babar is adamant about keeping Rizwan as his opener, despite some calls for maybe shaking things up a bit. He seems to really believe in their partnership.
And that kind of stability at the top of the order can make a huge difference in a tournament like this.
Now, on the other side of that rivalry, you can't talk about India without mentioning Virat Kohli.
Oh, of course. He's a legend, even if he's not captain anymore.
Right.
And, he thrives on that big stage. I'm sure he's going to be relishing the pressure of this India-Pakistan clash. One article I read even suggested that he might see this as a chance to prove he's still got it, especially after being replaced as captain.
Interesting. So like an extra layer of motivation for him there.
Maybe so.
And then, of course, you have Rohit Sharma, who's India's captain now, who's known for being very calm and collected, but also an explosive batsman.
Absolutely. He's a crucial player for India. His experience and his leadership are going to be essential, especially given all the unusual circumstances surrounding their participation in the tournament.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what it must be like to be in his shoes right now, captain your team in a major tournament, but not actually get to play any of your matches on home soil.
It's definitely unprecedented. And I imagine it adds a whole new level of complexity to his role as captain.
Yeah.
How do you maintain that team spirit and that focus when you're constantly on the move like that?
It's like they're playing a tournament within a tournament.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got the big names, but what about some potential breakout stars? Who could surprise us?
Well, from England, keep an eye on Harry Brook. He's a young batsman who's been making waves in the domestic circuit. He's got a really fearless approach, and he could be a real X factor for England.
Yeah, that's the kind of wild card you need in a tournament like this. Someone who comes out of nowhere and just steals the show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, on the Australian side, with so many of their senior bowlers out, keep an eye on someone like Spencer Johnson. He's a left-arm quick who bowls with some serious pace, and he could be a handful in these conditions.
So while all eyes will be on the established stars, we could see some new heroes emerge.
For sure. And that's what makes these tournaments so exciting. You just never know who's going to seize the moment and etch their name in cricketing history.
Now, speaking of seizing the moment, I'm curious about New Zealand. They always seem to overachieve even when they're missing key players. Do you think they can do it again this time?
I wouldn't bet against them. They're a resilient team, and they always seem to find a way to compete. Plus, they still have Trent Bolt leading their attack. And if he can get any swing with that ball, he could be devastating.
And let's not forget Kane Williamson, too.
Of course.
He might not be the flashiest captain out there.
Right.
But he's a brilliant tactician.
Absolutely. He's a master at getting the best out of his players, and he never seems to panic, even under pressure.
I'm just picturing him, like, calmly plotting out New Zealand's path to the final while everyone else is getting caught up in all the hype and the drama.
I think that's a pretty accurate picture.
And, speaking of kind of flying under the radar, South Africa could be a real threat in this tournament, too, if they can find their groove.
They could. With a new captain in Temba Bavuma, there's a sense of renewed energy and purpose in that team. They're definitely one to watch.
And then there's Afghanistan. Rashid Khan is a match winner on his day.
Oh, absolutely.
And that team always plays with so much passion.
They really do. And they've overcome incredible obstacles to reach this level, and they never back down from a challenge. It's really inspiring.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about the journey they've been on. From playing in refugee camps to competing on the world stage. It really is a testament to their love for the game.
It is. It's a reminder that sport can really transcend boundaries and provide hope in the face of adversity.
Okay, so we've covered the favorites, we've got the underdogs and the potential breakout stars. What else do we need to understand about this tournament beyond just the cricket itself?
Well, one thing that really stood out to me is the role of the fans. I mean, cricket is a religion in Pakistan, and they've been starved of international cricket for so long.
Yeah, some of the photos I'm seeing of the stadiums and the fans are incredible. It seems like the whole country is rallying behind this tournament.
Oh, I'm sure the atmosphere in those stadiums is going to be electric. It's going to be like a carnival of cricket, a celebration of the sport and the country itself.
And that kind of energy could be a real advantage for Pakistan, couldn't it? Having that home crowd behind them could give them an extra edge.
Oh, for sure. That kind of support can be a huge boost for any team. It can lift their spirits, inspire them to play their best, and even intimidate their opponents.
It's like having a 12th player on the field.
Exactly. And that's something that can't be replicated in Dubai. So even though India might have the advantage in terms of the logistics, Pakistan might have the upper hand in terms of sheer passion and home crowd support.
It's almost like a trade-off for convenience for intensity.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And that dynamic just adds another layer of intrigue to this tournament.
It seems like every element of this Champions Trophy is multi-layered. The cricket, the politics, the fans, the venues, it's all interconnected.
It really is. And that's what makes it so fascinating to unpack.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about a sporting event here. We're talking about a cultural phenomenon, a political chess match, and a window into the soul of a nation.
Okay, so you've covered a lot of ground here, but I feel like we've just scratched the surface of what this tournament really represents.
I think you're right. And in our final segment, I think it's time to step back and look at the bigger picture. What are the lasting implications of this Champions Trophy? How will it impact the future of cricket international relations, even our understanding of sports diplomacy?
Okay, so we've talked about all the rivalries and the underdog stories, and even like the financial gamble that Pakistan is taking on this tournament. But what's the bigger picture here? What does this actually mean beyond just the cricket itself?
That's the big question, isn't it? I think at its core, this tournament is a really fascinating look at how sports can be used as this tool for diplomacy, for changing perceptions, even for bridging divides.
So Pakistan is trying to hit a six on like multiple fronts here, winning the tournament, obviously, but also boosting their image and maybe even a chance to like improve relations with India all through this one event. But can they actually pull that off?
It's a tall order for sure. But I think one thing to remember is that even hosting this tournament at all is a pretty major achievement for Pakistan.
Right.
It shows a real commitment to re-engaging with the international community. And it sends a pretty strong message that they're ready to be a major player on the global stage again.
But with all the security and the controversy around India even participating, does it really project the kind of image they're hoping for?
It's a good point.
Yeah.
The intense security might make some people hesitant about traveling to Pakistan, but it also shows how seriously they're taking the safety of everyone involved.
Right.
It's a tough balance.
And what about the whole India situation? Some people are saying it just highlights how divided these two countries are, while others are saying it could be an opportunity for dialogue. What do you think?
It's complicated. On the one hand, you have all the historical baggage, the political tensions, the fact that India hasn't played a bilateral series in Pakistan in over a decade. I mean, it's not something you can just ignore.
Yeah, it's like there's this elephant in the room, even though they're not actually playing in the same room.
Exactly. But on the other hand, the fact that they're both participating in this tournament, even with all these unusual arrangements, it creates a point of contact.
Okay.
You know, there will be interactions between players, officials, fans. You never know what kind of conversations might happen behind the scenes.
So even with all this tension, there's this little glimmer of hope that this tournament could lead to something positive.
It's possible sports have this unique power to bring people together, to cut through those political differences. Who knows? Maybe this could plant a seed for future cooperation. Even if it's just a small step, it's a step in the right direction.
Like they say, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step right. And speaking of journeys, this tournament could also have a big impact on the future of cricket in Pakistan.
Absolutely. If they can pull this off, if they can really showcase their passion for the game and their ability to host this successful and safe event, it could lead to more opportunities to host big matches and tournaments in the future.
Which would be huge for Pakistani cricket.
Huge. More exposure, more revenue, more inspiration for young players.
Yeah.
It could really be a game changer. And it's not just about Pakistan either. This tournament could impact the whole global cricketing landscape.
How so?
Well, the more countries that can host these major tournaments, the more the sport can grow. It opens up new markets, new fan bases, new possibilities.
Well, it sounds like this Champions Trophy is about a lot more than just who wins the trophy at the end.
It really is. It's about legacies, about perceptions, about the power of sports to shape these narratives and bring people together. It's about history being made.
It makes you realize that every match, every run, every wicket is part of a much bigger story.
Exactly. And that's what makes this tournament so interesting. It's not just about the cricket itself, it's about everything that surrounds it. The human drama, the political intrigue, the hopes and dreams of an entire nation.
It's been great unpacking all of this with you. I feel like I have a totally different perspective on this tournament now.
Glad to hear it. It's always fascinating to dig into these deeper layers, to see how sports and politics and culture all intersect.
So as this Champions Trophy kicks off, we hope you'll look beyond just the scores and stats.
Yeah, think about the bigger picture, the lasting impact this could have on cricket, on Pakistan, even on our understanding of the world.
Who knows? Maybe we'll look back at this as a real turning point, a moment when cricket really did transcend boundaries and made a difference.
Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, this is a tournament that we're all going to remember for a long time.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back soon to break down all the action as the tournament unfolds. All right, so you sent me a ton of articles on this ICC Champions Trophy that starts tomorrow.